All right, so today we're going to be looking a little bit more into volume. We're going to dive a little bit deeper. Okay, so video and write down everything you remember about yesterday's lesson about what volume is. Okay, all right. Okay, so if you said it's how much space is taken up by something inside of a rectangular prism, you are correct using unit cubes to measure the inside, how much space is taken up in the inside with unit cubes with no gaps or overlaps, you would be correct. So if I were going to measure this little container here, I would use the cubes and how many cubes would go inside of it completely to fill it up completely with no gaps or overlays. Okay. So that is what volume is. How much space is taken up inside of something, measuring the inside of something with no gaps or overlaps. Okay. And what do we use to measure volume? Okay. If you said unit cubes, you are correct. So we do use unit cubes to measure how much space is taken up inside. We use a cube. So we call the measurement cubic units because we are using cubes to measure the inside of something, how much space occupies it. Unit cubes. Okay. So today we're going to be looking at a formula, using a formula to find out what volume is, how to find volume using a formula. Some of you probably already know the formula, okay? But if you don't, we're going to explore it a little bit more to see if we can come up with a formula to find what volume is, okay? So yesterday we looked at rectangular prisms. And we looked at the layers, right? We counted how many cubes were in the layer in order to find out the volume, okay? So for instance, in this one that we have here, we would account 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There is 8 cubes in the top layer. In this first layer, there's 8 cubes. If I were to add another layer, that would give me 8 and 8, which is 16. So this one has 16 cubes all together. Now this one has 8 and 8 and 8, so it has 24 because 8 times 3 is 24. Okay, so notice what we're doing here. This one had 1, 2, 3, 4 this way, and then 1, 2 this way. So this one had 4 this way and 2 this way. So 4 by 2, which had 8. Notice what we did on this one. It still has 1, 2, 3, 4 in the front. It still has 2 going in, but now I have 2 going up and down. So if I were to multiply, 4 times 2 is 8, times 2 is 16. Are you seeing a pattern? Okay, well, if you're not, let's do this one too. This one still has 1, 2, 3, 4. There's still 4 here. That hasn't changed. This still has 2 going inwards. That hasn't changed. What's changed? You're right. What's changed is the layers. Now I have 1, 2, 3 layers. So this would be 3. So now I have 4 times 3, which is 12, times 2 is 24. Are you getting the pattern? So this is the same thing. This hasn't changed. I still have 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. I still have 4. I still have 2 going sideways. What changed? The height. Now I have 1, 2, 3, 4. I have 4 here. So I could simply multiply times 4, which is 16, and then 16 times 2 to give me that there's 32 in this layer. So notice what I'm doing. I'm counting 1, 2, 3, 4. There's still 4 here. There's still 1, 2 here. What's changed? The layers or the height. Now I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now I have 5. So basically, I'm doing 4 times 5, which is 20, times 2, which is 40. So you see how I'm developing a formula here? Do you guys see the formula yet? So 1, 2, 3, 4, that's still the same. 1, 2, that's still the same. What's changed? The layers or the height. Now I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6. So notice what I'm doing. 4 times 6 is 24. 24 times 2 is 48. This one has 48. Okay. So if you didn't notice what I was doing, I was developing a formula. Okay. So I was counting how we were going across, or we call that the length. So going across is my length times, I was multiplying by how many were going this way inwards, my depth or my width, so it's length times width times my layers or my height. So to find my formula for volume, I simply, so volume equals my length, how many are going across, times my width, how many are going in, times my layers or my height. My length going across, my width going in, and my height going up. So do it with me. The length, how many are going across, times the width, how many are going in, do it with me, going in, and height going up. So volume equals the length, do it with me, length times width going in, height going up. Do it with me. Volume equals the length, how many going across, times the width going in, and height. Okay? And I know it sounds kind of silly doing my little motions, but these little motions are really going to help us in a couple more lessons. So if we practice now, by the time we get to it, it won't be so hard. So do it with me again. Length going across, width going in, or how deep something is, deep going in, and height up. Length times width, my depth, and my height. Okay? That's going to come in handy. All right, so to find the volume of any prism, any rectangular prism, I know that my formula, so write down your formula on your paper. My formula V, which stands for volume, is equal to the length times the width times the height. And that's going to give me my volume. My length times my width times my height. So remember, length is going across. So here in this figure, I can see my length. See, this one's going straight across. My length is 7 feet. My width is my depth, how much it's going in. How much is it going in? Which was here 4 feet. And then my height, up and down, my height here is 5 feet. So I can multiply 7 times 4, which gives me 28. And then I multiply that times 5. And remember that the commutative property of multiplication tells me that it doesn't matter which way I multiply. So I can multiply the 4 times 5 and gotten 20, and then multiply that times 7 to give me 140. That would have been easier to do than actually multiplying some times 4, 28, and then multiplying that by 5 to get 140. So it doesn't matter which way you multiply. They just put parentheses here to show you to multiply 2 together and then multiply the third one. Add and then apply the third one to get your answer. All right. So for my next one, to find my volume. Now notice here what went away. I forgot to mention that. What went away? If you said our cubes, you're right. Our cubes went away. So now we're looking at volume. It's the exact thing. So this would be 7 going across. You'd have 7 here, 7 little cubes going this way. And here you would have 4 cubes, and up and down you would have 5. What's changed is that we took away the cubes, and now we are just measuring without the little cubes. Okay. So in this one, same thing. So now I'm doing centimeters. So in this one, first I find my length. So my length is always going this way, right? Always going this way. So going that way is 6. So my length is 6. And I'm going to start using different colors, and you will see why in a few lessons. It'll make more sense why I'm using different colors, okay? So I'm going to say my length is 6. My width, remember, is going in, what's going in, how deep it is. And this one is 15 centimeters. I'm going to do 15 here. And then I'm going to do my height. So my height is going up and down, and I'm going to use a different color for that as well. And my height is 10. So my height is 10. Okay. So now I'm going to multiply, and it doesn't matter which ones you multiply together. If you want to do 6 times 15 and then multiply that by 10, that's totally fine. If you want to do 15 times 10, then multiply that by 6, that's totally fine. Or if you want to do 6 times 10 and then multiply it by 15, that's totally fine too. Okay, however you want to do it. I'm going to multiply 15 times 10. Know that I multiply by tens, I just add a 0, so that's going to make it 150 for those two. Then I'm going to multiply all that by 6. And if I multiply that by 6, then I'm going to see that I'm going to get 0 times 6 is 0. 5 times 6 is 30. So I'm going to put my 0 down, carry my 3, and now 6 times 1 is 6, plus 3 is 9. So my answer is 900 cubic. And notice I can just put the CU for cubic and then centimeters, cubic centimeters. Oh, I forgot to put my equation here, didn't I? So it's 6 times 15 times 10. Okay. That's how easily you do those. So you find the length. Remember, length goes this way, times your width, times your height. You may be saying, okay, Miss Holguin, I'm just multiplying the 3 numbers together. I'm just going to get the 3 numbers and multiply them together, that is correct what you're doing. But the reason why I'm doing the length times width times height is because this is going to help you when we start getting a little bit more difficult. This is going to help you. So I know that it sounds kind of silly right now because you're saying all I'm doing is multiplying 3 numbers, but this will really help you. So remember, length goes this way, width is going in, and your height is going up. So do it with me. Length times width, which is your deepness, times your height. Okay? So let's do a couple more. Some more. All right, for the next one, if you have your math book, it's a good idea to grab it because it's so you can start practicing with me. I'm on math page 288 of your math book, okay? And if you have 3 different colored crayons or pencils or something, or pens, 3 different colors, grab those too. So pause the video. If you have your math book, go grab your math book if you have colored pencils or anything, just 3 different colors. You just need 3 different colors, okay? So if you have that, go grab that and then come back to me. Okay, so I want you to do this with me if you have your math book. If you have your math book, so remember, volume is equal to length times width times height. So length, I'm going to draw a line here. So if you have your colors, just go over the line with one of the colors, okay? With one of the colors. It doesn't have to be blue, whatever color you have. So my length is 12. So I'm going to write down 12 for my length because my volume equals my length times my width, how much going in, times my height. So now my width, I'm going to make a different color. So my width, let's make that this color. So my width is going in, my line that's going in. Do color that line a different color, and that's my 4. Okay, and then remember my height goes up and down. Do your height a different color. Okay, here's my height. That's my height line, and that's a 4. Okay, so my length was 12, my width was 4, and my height was also 4. So again, it doesn't matter which numbers you multiply first, but remember that my formula is going to be 12 times 4 times 4, okay? And remember, it does not matter which ones you multiply together. So go ahead and pause the video, multiply them together and see what you get. Okay, you should have gotten 192 cubic meters. Remember, I can use CU for cubic. 192 cubic meters. So if you multiply 12 times 4, you should have gotten 48, and then 48 times 4 is 192. Okay, let's do the next one. Okay, again, I'm going to use my my blue for my length. So my length here is 5. So I'm going to go over my line with 5. So length going in 5. So I'm going to put my 5 here. Then I'm going to do my width, and I'm going to do my width a different color. I used this color last time. I'm going to use the same color just to keep it consistent. My width is going in, my line going in, my line going in. My width is 4. And then my height, I'm going to do my green that I used before. So here's my height. And my height is 8. Okay. So volume equals length times width times height. Okay. So this formula is going to be 5 times 4 times 8. Okay. So again, pause the video, figure out what 5 times 4 times 8 is, then come back to me. And it doesn't matter which order you do. If you times 4 first, divide by 5, or 5 times 4, then by 8, or 5 times 8, and then by 4, it doesn't matter. So pause the video and then come back. Okay, if you got 160 cubic inches, you would be correct. So 5 times 4 is 20, 20 times 8, 2 times 8 is 16, is 160. And remember, cubic inches, because that's how many cubes would fit in here. 160 cubes would fill up this prism, okay? All right, let's do, I think there's 2 more. So I need to pause. Okay, so I'm on number 11. Remember, I'm on page 288 if you have your math book, okay? All right, so my length, I'm going to do it one color, doesn't matter which color, but that's my length, which is 15 centimeters. Then I'm going to do my width. Remember, my width is what's going in. So my width is 10. I'm going to color that line blue, and that's 10. And then my height, I'm going to do my height, a different color. Let's do green. So my height here is 7. Okay. So length times width times height. Length going across, width going in, and height going up and down. Length times width times height. And I keep repeating myself, but believe me, in a few lessons, you're going to be glad that we are actually doing this. Length times width times height. And same thing with the coloring. This is going to come in so handy in a few lessons. So length times width times height. Okay, so again, my formula is going to be 15 times 10 times 7. And again, it does not matter which order you do it in. Go ahead and stop the video and do that, and then come back to me to check for the answer. All right, if you got 1,050 cubic centimeters, so 1,050 centimeter cubes would make this figure up, you would be correct, okay? So I would have multiplied 15 times 10 because I think that's just easier because it's got the power of 10. I'm going to take the two biggest numbers. So 15 times 10 I know is going to give me 150 because it's 15 with a 0 at the end, 150. And then I'm going to multiply that by 7. So if I were to do this down here, times 7, 7 times 0 is, so let me erase that one there so we don't get confused. Let me erase that times 7 there. So that way it doesn't confuse you. And I'll do it down here. Okay. 0 times 7 is 0. I'll put my 0 down. 5 times 7 is 35. Put my 5 down, carry my 3. 7 times 1 is 7, plus 3 is 10. That's my 1,050 that I got. Okay, so you try the last one on your own. Remember to color code your lines and then come back to me and see what you got. Okay, so I color coded it. My length is 6, 6. My width is 6. And my height is 6. So my equation is 6 times 6 times 6. So if we're to do this, 6 times 6 is 36, and then 36 times 6, which is 6 times 6 is 36. Carry my 3. 6 times 3 is 18, plus 3 is 260 cubic inches. So it would take 216 cubes that are an inch by inch by inch to fill this up. Okay? All right, so that's it for today's math lesson. Just remember that volume equals length. Well, I'm going to do it the opposite way, my opposite hand. Volume equals length times width going in times height. So do it with me. Volume equals length going across times width, the deepness, times the height. Volume equals length going across, width going in, times the height. All right, that's it for today.